A single mom sat alone at a wedding full of vampires. The vampire king leaned close and whispered, "Pretend I'm your husband tonight." She thought he was protecting her, until she realized her son carried the one bloodline every vampire clan would kill to possess. The black crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across the marble floor, making everything look like it was underwater. Alara clutched her in voice folder tighter, trying to become invisible among the velvet chairs at the edge of the ballroom. She shouldn't have stayed this long. The Bloodthorn wedding was supposed to be simple: deliver the roses, collect payment, leave before midnight. But the bride's assistant kept vanishing, and now Alara was trapped in a room full of people who looked at her like she was a stain on expensive silk. "Mama, can I have cake?" Finn tugged at her sleeve, his 7-year-old face smudged with chocolate. "Soon, baby. We're leaving soon." She smoothed his dark hair, glancing toward the exit. The double doors were guarded by men in suits so perfect they seemed stitched onto their bodies. The music changed. A waltz began, slow and haunting, played by an orchestra she couldn't see. Couples glided across the floor in movements too smooth, too synchronized. Their skin gleamed pale under the lights. Their smiles revealed teeth just a fraction too sharp. Alara's stomach twisted. Something was wrong with this wedding. Had been wrong since she'd arrived at sunset and seen the way everyone avoided the windows. "Is that a human?" The whisper cut through the music like a blade. Heads turned. Dozens of eyes, cold, hungry eyes, fixed on her. Alara's heart hammered. She grabbed Finn's hand and stood, folder falling from her lap. "We should go." A human and a child, a woman in a blood-red gown moved closer, her steps making no sound. "At a Bloodthorn wedding."
"How?"
"Bold." "I'm just the florist," Alara said, hating how her voice shook. "I brought the roses. White roses, like ordered. I'm waiting for payment." "White roses." The woman's laugh was like breaking glass. "Did you know white roses symbolize death in our tradition?" The circle tightened. Men and women in elaborate gowns and sharp tuxedos closed in, their movements predatory. Finn pressed against Alara's side, and she felt him trembling. This was a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. She should have demanded payment up front. Should have left the moment she felt that prickling unease at the back of her neck. "Gentlemen, ladies," a voice came from behind her, soft and dark as midnight. "Step back from my wife." The crowd froze. Alara turned slowly, and her breath caught. A man stood there. No, not a man. Something that wore the shape of a man, like other people wore clothes. He was tall, dressed in black from collar to cuff, with silver hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes the color of frozen steel. His face was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache, all sharp angles and cruel elegance. But it was his smile that terrified her most. A smile that didn't reach his eyes, calculated and cold.
"Your
wife." The woman in red's voice dripped disbelief. Indeed, he moved past Alara, and she caught the scent of winter forests and something metallic, like old coins. He extended his hand to her, and she saw a ring on his finger, dark silver carved with symbols that seemed to move in the light. "Darling, you wandered off." Alara stared at his hand. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to grab Finn and bolt for the doors. But those doors were guarded, and the circle of elegant predators hadn't moved back. They were waiting, watching. This stranger was offering her a way out. She took his hand. His skin was ice cold, and when his fingers closed around hers, she felt strength that could crush bone without effort. He pulled her close, one arm sliding around her waist possessively. Lucien, a man, stepped forward from the crowd, older, with a silver beard and eyes like amber. He wore a crown of twisted black metal. "You dare bring a human into our house? On my daughter's wedding night?" Lord Bloodthorn, the stranger, Lucien, inclined his head just enough to avoid being outright rude. "I meant no disrespect. My wife has always been shy about her nature. She prefers discretion." "Her nature?" Bloodthorn's eyes narrowed, studying Alara with renewed interest. She smells entirely human. Appearances can deceive. Lucien's arm tightened around Alara's waist, and she fought not to gasp at the pressure. He was warning her. Play along. Surely you remember the old bloodlines? Those who walk in daylight. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Alara had no idea what he was talking about, but the way people leaned back told her it was significant. Bloodthorn's expression shifted from anger to calculation. The Daywalkers died out centuries ago. Did they? Lucien smiled, and this time it had teeth. Or did they simply learn to hide? And the child? Alara's grip on Finn tightened. Mine, Lucien said simply, and the word carried weight that made the air feel heavy. Ours. Silence stretched like a held breath. Then Bloodthorn laughed, a booming sound that made the chandeliers tremble. Well then, if the king of Clan Varen sees fit to grace us with his presence, along with his unusual family, who am I to object? He spread his arms wide. Join the celebration. Dance. Though I wonder why you came in such secrecy, old friend.
King.
The word echoed in Alara's mind. She'd let a king claim her as his wife. I prefer to observe, Lucien said. Before I act. Something dangerous flashed in Bloodthorn's eyes, but his smile never wavered. Of course. Enjoy the evening. He turned away, and the crowd slowly dispersed, though Alara felt eyes following her from every corner. The music swelled again, couples returning to their eerie, too-perfect waltz. Lucien's arm was still around her waist. He leaned down, his lips nearly brushing her ear, and whispered, "When I lead you to the dance floor, smile.
Laugh. Pretend you adore me.
There are assassins in this room, and they're looking for any weakness. I don't understand. You don't need to. Just follow my lead, Mrs. Varen." His hand found hers again, and he pulled her toward the center of the ballroom. And whatever you do, don't let your son out of your sight. Not for a second.
Why?
What's happening? Something that was set in motion long before you brought white roses to a vampire wedding. He spun her into position, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers up in proper waltz form. Now smile, little florist. We're being watched. Over his shoulder, Alara saw Finn standing alone by the chairs, eyes wide. A woman in a violet gown had moved closer to him, her interest too keen, too hungry. My son is bait, Lucien said softly. Just like you. Just like this entire evening, his eyes met hers, and for just a moment, she saw something in them. Regret, maybe. Or warning. I'm sorry you walked into this. But now that you have, there's only one way out. What way? Survive the dance. The music shifted into something faster, darker. Lucien pulled her into motion, and Alara had no choice but to follow, her heart pounding, her son in danger, and a vampire king's cold hand the only thing between her and a room full of monsters. Lucien moved like water, each step precise and effortless. Alara stumbled to keep up, her worn flats sliding on the polished marble as he swept her across the ballroom floor. Left foot back, he murmured, his breath cold against her cheek. Follow my lead, not the music. I can't, I don't know how to. Yes, you can. His hand pressed firmly at the small of her back, guiding her through a turn. To anyone watching, they looked like lovers lost in the dance. But his eyes never stopped moving, scanning the crowd with predatory focus. You're doing perfectly. She wasn't. Her legs felt like jelly, and every face that turned toward them made her want to bolt. But Finn, she caught glimpses of him through the spinning couples, still standing by the chairs. The woman in violet had moved closer, crouching down to speak to him. My son, that woman, is Lady Morgana of the Eastern Covens. She won't harm him. Not yet. Lucien spun her faster, and the room blurred into streaks of black and crimson. They're waiting to see what happens first. What happens? What are you talking about? This wedding is a lie. His voice dropped to barely a whisper as they glided past Lord Bloodthorn's throne. 3 clans gathered in one place, supposedly to celebrate peace. But Lord Bloodthorn invited me here to die. Alara's foot caught, and she would have fallen if Lucien hadn't held her up with inhuman strength. "Then why did you come?" "Because I intended to kill him first." His smile was razor-sharp. "Until you complicated things." The music swelled, violins screaming. Lucien pulled her close, too close, their bodies pressed together as they spun through the center of the floor. She could feel the coldness radiating from him, seeping through her thin dress. "You have no heartbeat," she whispered, the realization hitting her like ice water.
No.
You're really a vampire." Yes, his silver eyes caught the light, reflecting it back like a cat's. "And so is everyone else in this room, except you and your son." Panic clawed up her throat. "Let me go."
Please.
"We'll leave. We won't tell anyone." Too late, he guided her through a complex series of turns, positioning them near the orchestra. "See the violinist on the left? The one with the scar on his neck." She risked a glance. A pale man with dark hair, his bow moving mechanically across the strings. "He's not playing," Lucien continued. "He's watching me." So is the woman serving champagne by the west pillar. And the guard at the door has his hand inside his coat. There's a stake there, made from white ash. Fatal to my kind. "I don't understand why you're telling me this." "Because in approximately 30 seconds, they're going to try to kill me. And when they do, you need to run." "What?" "Take your son. There's a servant's entrance behind the third pillar on your right. It leads to the courtyard. Beyond that, the gardens. There's a gate." "I can't just leave you." "Why not?" His laugh was bitter. "You don't know me. I'm using you as cover, remember? I whispered in your ear and made you my puppet for the evening." But there was something in his voice, something that didn't match his cruel words. A tension that felt almost like protection. The music changed. A single note held too long. Lucien's entire body went rigid.
Run. Now.
Everything happened at once. The violinist dropped his instrument and pulled a blade from his coat. The woman by the pillar threw her champagne tray aside, revealing a crossbow strapped to her thigh. The guard at the door drew his stake. But they weren't aiming at Lucien. They were aiming at Finn.
No.
Elara screamed. Lucien moved faster than thought, shoving her aside as the crossbow bolt whistled past her head. It struck Lord Bloodthorn's throne, splitting the wood. Chaos erupted. Guests shrieked and scattered. More weapons appeared, stakes, silver chains, vials of something that smoked and hissed when spilled. The orchestra fled, trampling over their instruments. Elara ran toward Finn, but Lady Morgana was faster. The woman in violet scooped Finn up with impossible strength and turned toward the windows.
Nah.
Finn's scream cut through the chaos. Lucien appeared between them and Morgana like a ghost, his hand catching her throat. "Bad choice, Morgana. He bears the mark." Morgana snarled, struggling against his grip. The first bloodline. Bloodthorn promised him to whoever. Lucien's hand tightened, and she choked on her words. He grabbed Finn with his other arm, pulling the boy away from her. "Run faster than you've ever run, little florist."
To the courtyard. I'll find you.
"But go." Behind them, Lord Bloodthorn rose from his throne, his face twisted with rage. "Seize them. The child cannot leave this hall." Guards poured from every doorway. The fake violinist lunged at Lucien with his blade. Fire erupted from somewhere. Actual fire, spreading across the silk curtains and licking up the walls. Elara caught Finn as Lucien tossed him to her. The boy's weight nearly knocked her down, but she held on, spinning toward the pillar Lucien had indicated. Behind her, she heard the sound of breaking bone and screams that didn't sound human. "Don't look back," she whispered to Finn, even as her own eyes betrayed her, catching one glimpse of Lucien tearing through attackers with his bare hands, silver hair stained with something dark. Then she ran, clutching her son, into the smoke and shadows, while the wedding burned behind them. The courtyard air hit Elara's lungs like broken glass, cold, sharp, tasting of smoke. She stumbled down the stone steps, Finn's weight heavy in her arms, his face buried against her shoulder.
Nana, I'm scared.
I know, baby. I know. Her voice cracked. Behind them, screams echoed from the ballroom, mingled with sounds that weren't quite human, snarls, the wet crack of flesh tearing. Don't look. Just hold on to me. The courtyard was a maze of marble statues and dying rose bushes. Her roses, the white ones she'd spent 3 days arranging. They looked gray in the moonlight, like ghosts of flowers. She ran toward the far wall where wrought iron gates promised escape. 50 yards.
40.
Her worn flats slapped against the stone, each step jarring through her exhausted body. 20 yards from the gate, a figure dropped from the wall. Alara skidded to a stop, nearly dropping Finn. The man was young, dressed in black tactical gear, with a face too beautiful to be real. His eyes glowed amber in the darkness. The child. Give him to me, and you can leave unharmed. Stay back. Alara looked around desperately. A garden rake leaned against a statue. Useless, but it was something. She set Finn down behind her and grabbed it, holding it like a spear with shaking hands. The man laughed. Brave. Stupid, but brave. He moved closer, faster than her eyes could track. One moment he was by the gate, the next he was 3 feet away. You smell like Lucian. Did he claim you? Mark you? I don't know what that means. It means you're worth keeping alive. For now, his hand shot out, inhumanly fast, grabbing the rake and yanking it from her grip. He tossed it aside like a toy. The boy, however, is worth more than you can imagine. Lord Bloodthorn will pay a fortune for him. He's 7 years old. Alara's voice rose to a shout. What could you possibly want with a child? Not what I want. What he is, the man reached for Finn. Alara did the only thing she could think of. She threw herself at him, nails clawing at his face, knee driving toward his stomach. It was like attacking a marble statue. He didn't even flinch. But she bought 2 seconds. 2 seconds for Finn to run. Finn, go! She screamed as the vampire's hand closed around her throat, lifting her off the ground. Her vision sparked with black dots. Run. The man's head snapped to the side, tracking Finn's small form sprinting toward the gardens. Little fool, he threw Alara aside like a rag doll. She hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her shoulder. Through blurred vision, she saw him stalking toward her son, saw Finn trip over a root and fall, sobbing. A blur of silver and black crashed into the vampire. Lucian. He looked different now, wild, dangerous, his elegant facade stripped away. Blood stained his white shirt, though she couldn't tell if it was his or someone else's. His eyes blazed with cold fury as he drove the other vampire into the ground. You dare? Lucian's voice was barely recognizable, layered with something ancient and terrible. You dare touch what is mine? Lucian, wait, he's Bloodthorn's nephew. Then Bloodthorn can bury him. Lucian's hand drove through the man's chest. Alara turned Finn's face away, but she couldn't block out the sound, the wet crunch, the final gasp. When she looked back, the young vampire was ash, scattering in the wind. Lucian stood slowly, breathing hard. For the first time, she saw the wound in his side, a deep gash that should have been fatal, already healing but slowly, too slowly. You're hurt. I'll survive. He crossed to them in 3 strides, hauling Alara to her feet with surprising gentleness. His eyes scanned Finn, checking for injuries. Can you walk? Yes, but... An explosion rocked the mansion. Windows shattered, raining glass onto the courtyard. Flames roared from the ballroom, turning night into hellish day. They've set the charges, Lucian muttered. Bloodthorn planned to destroy his own home. Insurance against failure. He grabbed Finn, lifting the boy despite his injury. The gardens.
Now.
They'll have guards at every gate, but there's a section of wall near the old chapel that... There! A shout from behind them. More figures poured from the burning mansion. 6, 7, a dozen, all moving with that terrible inhuman speed. Lucien pushed Finn into Alara's arms. When I say run, you run.
No hesitation.
No looking back. What about you? I'm going to give you a head start. He turned to face the oncoming vampires, and for a moment, his hand found hers and squeezed, a gesture so human it made her chest ache. There's an abbey, 2 miles north through the forest. Ruins, but the sanctified ground will protect you until dawn. Go. Lucien. Run. He charged. Alara watched for one heartbeat as he collided with the first wave of attackers, moving like violence given form, beautiful and terrifying. Then she clutched Finn and ran toward the dark line of trees beyond the garden. Behind them, the mansion burned. Ahead, the forest waited with its own dangers. And somewhere in the chaos, she heard a voice, Lord Bloodthorn's voice, rising above the flames. Bring me the child. He bears the mark of the first. He's the key to everything. Alara didn't understand, didn't want to understand. She just ran, her son's heartbeat racing against her chest, the taste of smoke and fear sharp on her tongue, while behind them the vampire king fought to buy them minutes they might not survive. The forest swallowed them whole. Alara crashed through underbrush, branches clawing at her dress, tearing her skin. Finn ran beside her now, too heavy to carry any longer, his small hand locked in hers as they stumbled over roots and rocks invisible in the darkness. Mama, I can't breathe, Finn gasped, stumbling. Just a little more, baby. Just a little. Her words died as she heard it. Footsteps behind them. Fast. Getting closer. Not the heavy thud of human pursuit, but something lighter, quicker. Something that barely touched the ground. Hide. Alara shoved Finn toward a hollowed-out oak, pushing him into the dark space between its ancient roots. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't come out until I tell you.
Mama, no.
She pressed her hand over his mouth, gentle but firm. I love you. Remember that. Then she ran, crashing through the forest deliberately loud, leading them away from her son. The footsteps followed. Alara's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. She burst through a line of trees, and suddenly the ground disappeared beneath her feet, a slope, steep and treacherous. She tumbled down, rocks cutting her palms, dress tangling around her legs, until she crashed into something solid at the bottom. A wall. Old stone, covered in moss and moonlight. The abbey ruins. She dragged herself up, tasting blood, and staggered through a gap in the crumbling walls. Broken pillars reached toward the sky like skeletal fingers. Shattered stained glass crunched under her feet. An altar stood at the far end, tilted and broken, but still recognizable. Sanctified ground. Lucien had said it would protect them. Clever girl, the voice came from above.
Alara spoon.
A man perched on the remains of the wall, older than the others, with black hair streaked with silver and eyes like dark wine. He wore a coat of deep crimson, and even in the shadows, he radiated authority. Lord Malric, another voice said, and Alara's heart leapt. Lucien emerged from the trees, limping badly now, his wound still bleeding. Still stealing children in the night? Some habits never change. Lucien, Malric dropped from the wall, landing without sound. The mighty Varen King, playing protector to humans. How the legends have fallen. 2 more figures emerged from the shadows, vampires in tactical gear, flanking Malric. One held something small and struggling.
Finn. No.
Alara lunged forward, but Lucien's arm caught her waist, holding her back with iron strength. Let him go, Malric, Lucien said quietly. This doesn't concern your clan. Doesn't concern me? Malric laughed, the sound sharp as breaking bones. The first bloodline resurfaces after 3 centuries, and you think it doesn't concern me? He grabbed Finn's arm, yanking up his sleeve. On Finn's forearm, barely visible in the moonlight, was a mark Alara had never seen before. It looked like a scar, but shaped with deliberate artistry, a symbol of interlocking circles and curved lines that seemed to shimmer. The Primus mark, Malric breathed. I'd convinced myself the rumors were lies. But here it is. Living proof that the first bloodline didn't die out. It merely hid among the humans. I don't understand, Elara whispered. Finn is human. He's my son. His father was human. Was he? Malric's smile was cruel. Or did he simply tell you he was? The first bloodline could walk in daylight, eat human food, even father children with mortals. They were the original vampires. Before the curse split us into warring clans, he pulled Finn closer, ignoring the boy's terrified whimpers. This child's blood can reunite the clans. End the centuries of war. Whoever controls him controls the future of our kind. He's a child, Elara spat. Not a weapon. Everything is a weapon. Given proper motivation, Malric's hand moved to Finn's throat. Lucian, you're going to walk away. Return to your mountain fortress. Forget tonight ever happened. Or I open the boy's throat right here, and his precious blood soaks into sanctified ground where it's useless to everyone. Lucian's grip on Elara tightened. She felt him trembling. Not from fear, but from restrained violence. You won't kill him. He's worth more alive.
True.
But I'll hurt him. Break bones. Take pieces. Whatever it takes to make his mother cooperative. Malric's eyes found Elara. You'll come willingly, won't you? You and your miraculous son. You'll serve my clan. Let us study the boy. Unlock his secrets. Or I start with his fingers. Tears streamed down Finn's face.
Mana.
Elara's world narrowed to that single word. Her son's voice, broken with terror. Nothing else mattered. Not vampire politics. Not ancient bloodlines. Not her own life. I'll come, she said. Let him go, and I'll come. No, Lucian's voice was steel. Elara, don't. He's my son. She turned to look at him, and for the first time since the ballroom, really saw him. The vampire king who'd protected them, fought for them, bled for them. I won't let him be hurt. Not for anything. Something shifted in Lucian's expression.
Pain, maybe.
Or recognition. How touching, Malric sneered. But I think I'll take you both anyway. His words cut off. He looked down. A stake protruded from his chest, not through the heart, but close. Close enough to weaken him. Behind him stood Finn, small hands still gripping the piece of broken altar he'd driven into Malric's back. You talk too much, Finn said, voice shaking but defiant. My mama taught me to fight back. Malric roared. His guards lunged forward. And Lucian smiled, cold, dangerous, proud. Now, he whispered, releasing Elara. Now we fight. The battle lasted seconds, but felt like hours. Lucian tore through Malric's guards with savage efficiency, while Elara grabbed Finn and ran. Behind them, Malric's screams of rage echoed through the ruins as he clawed the stake from his back. They didn't stop running until the abbey was a distant shadow and dawn threatened the eastern sky with pale gray light. Here, Lucian appeared beside them, materializing from the forest like a ghost. Blood covered his clothes, too much blood, but he moved with purpose, guiding them up a rocky slope. There's an entrance hidden behind those stones. Elara's legs trembled with exhaustion, but she pushed forward. Finn had gone silent, his small body rigid with shock. The mark on his arm seemed darker now, more pronounced. Lucian moved 3 boulders aside with inhuman strength, revealing a narrow gap in the mountainside. Inside. Quickly. Dawn is coming. The tunnel led down into darkness. Elara hesitated. I won't harm you, Lucian said quietly. If I wanted you dead, you'd be ashes in Bloodthorn's ballroom. It was the exhaustion that made her trust him. Or maybe the fact that he'd had a dozen chances to betray them and hadn't. She took Finn's hand and stepped into the dark. The tunnel opened into a cavern that took her breath away. It was a room from another era, stone walls lined with ancient tapestries, furniture carved from dark wood, shelves holding books that looked centuries old. Candles lit themselves as they entered, filling the space with warm, flickering light. A bed stood in the corner, draped with faded velvet. Your childhood refuge, Alara said, remembering his words from the ballroom. Before I was king. Before I was anything but a boy trying to survive, Lucien sealed the entrance behind them, shoving the stone door closed with a sound of grinding rock. We're safe here. The wards are old but strong. No one knows this place exists. He swayed suddenly, catching himself against the wall. You're hurt. Alara moved toward him instinctively. I'll heal. Slowly, he slid down the wall, leaving a smear of blood. Malric's blade was silver. It will take time. Finn stirred in Alara's arms. Is he dying? No, Lucien's smile was tired. Hard to kill. That's why they made me king. Alara settled Finn on the bed, wrapping him in the velvet blanket. Her son's eyes were too old now, haunted by things no child should see. She kissed his forehead and turned to face Lucien. You used us. Her voice shook with anger she'd been suppressing for hours. You knew about the attack. You let us walk into that ballroom as bait. Yes. The simple admission stunned her into silence. I needed to expose the conspiracy, Lucien continued, meeting her eyes without flinching. Bloodthorn has been plotting against my clan for months. I had evidence, but no proof. I needed him to act, to reveal his allies. He gestured weakly to his side. I didn't expect this many clans to be involved. And I never expected your son. What is he? Alara demanded. This first bloodline, the mark. What does it mean? It means Finn isn't entirely human. Lucien's words fell like stones. His father, whoever he was, carried the original vampire bloodline. The one that existed before the curse fractured us into warring clans 300 years ago. That's impossible. His father was. She stopped. What did she really know about Marcus? The man who'd swept into her life like a storm, loved her for 3 months, then vanished the day she told him she was pregnant. She'd thought he was just another deadbeat. But she remembered things now, in this new context. How he never ate around her. How she never saw him during the day. How his skin was always cold. Oh God, her legs gave out. She sat heavily on the floor. I was so stupid. You were human. You saw what you expected to see. Lucien shifted, wincing. The first bloodline can pass as human perfectly. That was their gift and their curse. They could love humans, have children with them. But every generation, the blood dilutes. Becomes dormant. His eyes found Finn, sleeping now. Until something awakens it. What awakens it? Usually trauma. Fear. A near-death experience. His expression darkened. Tonight might have been enough. Alara looked at her son, her baby boy who loved dinosaurs and always shared his snacks, who cried during sad movies and laughed at terrible jokes. The mark on his arm pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. When Malric grabbed him, she whispered, Finn's scratch on his hand healed. I saw it. The blood stopped, and the wound just closed. Lucien nodded grimly. It's beginning. What do we do? We hide. Let me heal. Then we run. He closed his eyes, exhaustion finally claiming him. Every clan will be hunting him now. Bloodthorn, Malric, the Eastern Covens. They'll tear the world apart to possess him.
Why?
What could they possibly? His blood can create new vampires without the curse. No weakness to sunlight.
No fractured clans.
United power. Lucien's voice faded. Whoever controls Finn controls the future of our species. They'll make him a prisoner. Drain him slowly. Use him as a weapon. No, Alara's voice was steel. I won't let that happen. You can't stop them. You're human. Then make me something else. Lucien's eyes snapped open. What? You said something about a blood oath. In the ballroom, Alara moved closer, her jaw set. You said I could bind myself to your clan. Do it. Make me strong enough to protect my son. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand perfectly. She held out her wrist. I'm asking you to help me save him, whatever it costs. Lucien stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he took her hand. This will hurt, he whispered. Everything hurts. Alara met his eyes. What's one more scar? His fangs extended, sharp and white in the candlelight. And she didn't look away. The bite was nothing like Alara expected. Not painful, exactly. More like ice and fire meeting in her veins, spreading from her wrist through her entire body. Lucien's mouth was cold against her skin, his grip gentle despite the strength she knew he possessed. Then he pulled back, and she saw her own blood on his lips. Now he bit his own wrist, dark blood welling instantly.
Drink.
3 drops. No more. Alara's stomach turned. I can't. You asked for this. The oath requires exchange. His eyes were serious, all traces of mockery gone. 3 drops binds you to my clan. More than that and you'll start to turn. Understand? She thought of Finn, sleeping peacefully for the first time in hours. Thought of Malric's hands on him, of Bloodthorn's hungry eyes.
She drank.
The blood tasted like copper and winter storms. Her throat burned. The world tilted sideways, and she would have fallen if Lucien hadn't caught her. Breathe through it, he murmured. The magic needs to settle. Magic. The word seemed absurd, but there was no other explanation for what she felt. Power rushing through her like electricity, foreign and terrifying. Her senses sharpened. She could hear Finn's heartbeat across the room, smell the ancient dust in the tapestries, see details in the darkness she'd never noticed before. Then pain exploded in her palm. She gasped, clutching her hand. A mark burned itself into her skin, the same interlocking circles from Finn's arm, but simpler, smaller. It glowed faint red before fading to a silvery scar. The clan mark, Lucien said. You're bound to House Varen now. My enemies are yours. My wars are yours, he released her, stepping back.
I'm sorry.
You deserve better than this life. I deserve to keep my son safe. Alara flexed her hand, feeling the new strength in her fingers. How long until they find us? 3 days, maybe 4. Malric will need time to heal and regroup. Bloodthorn will be dealing with the aftermath of his failed ambush. Lucien moved to the shelves, pulling down a leather-bound book. But word spreads fast in our world. By tomorrow night, every vampire on the continent will know about Finn. Then we leave before tomorrow night. And go where? He turned, and she saw the weariness in his face, centuries of it, etched into his immortal features. My fortress in the mountains? That's the first place they'll attack. Your home? They've already burned it, I'm sure. My home. Alara's breath caught. Her small cottage, Finn's bedroom with his dinosaur posters, the garden she'd spent 2 years growing. Everything. Everything, Lucien's voice was gentle.
I'm sorry.
But they're thorough. No place you've ever been is safe now. The weight of it crashed over her. She'd lost her home, her normal life, any chance of going back. All because she'd delivered flowers to the wrong wedding. Hey, Lucien was suddenly closer, his cold hand on her shoulder. You're stronger than you think. The oath doesn't just bind you, it gives you gifts. Enhanced senses. Faster healing. Some protection against vampire persuasion, he paused. And it connects you to me. If you're in danger, I'll know. I'll come. Why? Alara looked up at him. Why are you helping us? You could have walked away after the abbey. He was quiet for a long moment, his silver eyes distant. 300 years ago, I made a mistake. There was a human queen I could have saved, should have saved. But I chose politics over compassion. Chose my crown over her life, his jaw tightened. She died because I was a coward. I won't make that choice again. Before Alara could respond, Finn cried out in his sleep. They both rushed to the bed. The boy thrashed in the blankets, his skin burning hot. The mark on his arm blazed with light, not faint anymore, but bright as a brand. What's happening to him? Alara grabbed his hand, trying to soothe him. The awakening is accelerating. Lucien placed his palm over the mark, and Finn's thrashing calmed slightly. The trauma triggered it, but now it's feeding on his fear, his stress. If we don't stabilize it...
What?
What happens? The power could burn him out from the inside. Or it could fully awaken, and every vampire within 100 miles would feel it. Lucien's expression was grim. We need help. Someone who understands the old bloodlines.
Who?
There's a scholar. Ancient, even by vampire standards. She lives in the Dead City. 3 nights' travel from here. He looked at Alara. But the Dead City is neutral territory. If we go there, we'll be vulnerable. No clan protection, no allies. Just us against anyone who wants the boy. Then we'll fight. There will be dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. I don't care. Alara smoothed Finn's sweat-damp hair, feeling the new strength in her arms, the oath bond humming beneath her skin. He's my son. I'll fight the world if I have to. Lucien studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of something he'd lost long ago. We rest today, he said finally. The sun is rising, and I need to heal. Tomorrow night, we travel. He moved toward the door, then paused. Alara? That dream you mentioned about me sparing a human queen? Yes. I didn't see it from the blood oath. You did. His voice was soft. The bond works both ways. You're in my memories now. And I'm in yours. He left before she could ask what that meant. Alara lay down beside Finn, holding her son close, feeling the mark on her palm pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Outside, dawn broke over the mountains. And somewhere in the dark, their enemies gathered. They never made it to the Dead City. On the second night of travel, as they crossed a narrow mountain pass, Lucien stopped suddenly. His head tilted, listening to something Alara couldn't hear. They're here, he whispered. Earlier than I expected. How many?
Alara pulled Finn closer.
The boy had been quiet all evening, the mark on his arm glowing steadily brighter. Too many. Lucien's eyes scanned the darkness. They've allied. Bloodthorn, Malric, the Eastern Covens. At least 50 vampires, maybe more. 50. Alara's new strength felt suddenly inadequate. We can't fight 50. We won't. Lucien grabbed her hand, pulling them toward a fortress carved into the mountain itself. Ancient stone walls rising from the rock, towers that scraped the blood-red moon hanging overhead. My secondary stronghold. If we can reach it, the defenses might buy us time. They ran. Behind them, Alara heard sounds that made her blood freeze, howls that weren't quite wolves, the rush of many bodies moving too fast to be human. The fortress gates loomed ahead. Lucien shouted something in a language she didn't know, and the massive doors groaned open. They tumbled through, and the gates slammed shut with a boom that echoed through the valley. Will it hold? Alara asked, gasping. For a few hours, Lucien was already moving, pulling them deeper into the fortress. There's a crypt beneath the main hall.
Take Finn there.
Hide him. No matter what you hear, don't come out until... The gates exploded inward. Splinters of ancient oak and iron flew like shrapnel. Vampires poured through the breach, dozens of them, moving like a flood of darkness and hunger. Go! Lucien shoved Alara toward a side passage, then turned to face the invasion alone. She wanted to stay, to fight beside him. But Finn was crying, terrified, and she was his mother before she was anything else. She ran. The fortress was a maze of corridors and stairs, all carved from living rock. She found the crypt entrance behind a tapestry, stone steps leading down into cold darkness. The mark on her palm pulsed, pulling her forward like a compass. The crypt was small, lined with empty sarcophagi. She hid Finn behind the largest one, in a space barely big enough for his small body. Mama, don't leave me. I have to help Lucien. I'll come back, I promise. She kissed his forehead, tasting salt from his tears. Be brave, baby, like you were at the abbey.
I'm scared.
Me too, she smiled, though her heart was breaking. But we're fighters, remember? She sealed the crypt entrance and ran back toward the sound of battle. The main hall was chaos. Lucien fought like a demon, moving through attackers with lethal grace. Bodies, or what remained of them, littered the floor.
But there were too many.
For every vampire he destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. Lord Bloodthorn stood at the entrance, watching with cold satisfaction. "Give us the child, Lucian. This ends when you surrender him." "Never." Lucian's voice was raw with fury. He grabbed a fallen sword, silver blade stained black with vampire blood. Malric appeared on the stairs, having found another entrance. His chest still bore the wound from Finn's stake, barely healed. "The boy is in the crypt. I can smell him." Alara's heart stopped. Malric started down the corridor toward the crypt entrance. Toward Finn.
No.
She didn't think, just moved. She launched herself from the shadows, tackling Malric with her new strength. They crashed into the stone wall hard enough to crack it. Malric snarled, fangs bared, throwing her off like she weighed nothing. The marked human, Malric's smile was cruel. "You think Lucian's blood makes you strong enough to challenge me? I think it makes me strong enough to slow you down." Alara grabbed a broken piece of wood from the debris. Not a proper stake, but sharp enough. "And that's all I need to do." She fought with everything she had. The enhanced speed from the oath, the desperate strength of a mother protecting her child, the techniques Lucian had shown her during their 2 nights of travel. It wasn't enough. Malric was centuries old, experienced, brutal. But she made him work for it. Each second she bought was a second Finn stayed hidden. Each wound she inflicted was a small victory. She felt ribs crack, tasted blood, but she didn't stop. "Enough." Malric caught her throat, lifting her off the ground. "Die knowing your son will serve my clan for centuries." A sword burst through his chest. Lucian stood behind him, silver blade driven through Malric's heart. "Wrong answer." Malric gasped, body convulsing. Silver through the heart was fatal, even for the old ones. He crumbled to ash before he hit the ground. Lucian caught Alara as she fell, lowering her gently. "Foolish, brave woman. You were supposed to hide." "He was going to find Finn," she coughed, tasting blood. "Couldn't let that happen." Around them, the battle was turning. With Malric dead, the Eastern Covens were retreating. But Bloodthorn's forces still pressed forward, and Lucian's sword was broken. "The sun," Alara whispered, seeing pale light through the shattered gates. "Dawn is coming." Lucian looked toward the east, where the sky was turning gray. "Then we hold until it does. And hope Bloodthorn values his life more than his ambition." He pulled Alara to her feet. Together, wounded and weary, they turned to face the remaining attackers. Outside, the blood-red moon was setting. And the dawn was coming like a promise of salvation, or a final goodbye. Dawn came like liquid gold, pouring through the shattered fortress gates. The vampires screamed. Bloodthorn's forces fled in a chaos of panic and smoke, those caught in the light's path crumbling to ash before they could reach the shadows. Lord Bloodthorn himself stood at the threshold, his face twisted with rage and something that looked almost like fear. "This isn't over, Lucian," he roared. "The boy's power will unite the clans, with or without you." Then he was gone, vanishing into the mountain shadows with his surviving followers. Silence fell over the fortress, broken only by Alara's ragged breathing and the settling of debris. "You can come out now," Lucian called toward the crypt, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. Finn emerged slowly, his small face pale but tearless. The mark on his arm had stopped glowing, returning to its faint shimmer. He ran to Alara, and she wrapped him in her arms despite the pain in her ribs. "Is it over?"
Finn whispered. "For now," Lucian said.
He stood silhouetted against the sunrise, smoke rising from where the light touched his shadow. Even wounded, bleeding, covered in ash, he looked like something out of legend, a king who'd held back an army. But Alara noticed he was trembling. "You need to get out of the light," she said, standing despite her injuries. "The sun won't kill me immediately. But yes, it hurts." His smile was tired.
"Go.
"Take your son. There's a carriage beyond the western wall, prepared for escape. Supplies, money, papers with new identities. You can start over somewhere safe." Alara stared at him. You're sending us away? The clans are fractured now, but they'll regroup. They'll keep hunting Finn. Lucian's silver eyes held hers. You deserve a normal life. Both of you. Away from this war. And you. I'll lead them elsewhere. Make them chase shadows while you disappear. He turned away, toward the fortress depths where darkness still reigned. It's better this way.
No.
The single word stopped him. Alara walked toward him, Finn's hand in hers, each step deliberate. You said the blood oath binds us. Your enemies are mine. Your wars are mine. I released you from that when Maurik died. You can't release me from a choice. She stood before him now, close enough to see the silver burns on his skin from the dawn light, the exhaustion in his ancient eyes. 3 nights ago, you whispered to me at a wedding. Asked me to pretend to be your wife. A deception. A strategy. Was it? She remembered the way he'd held her during the waltz, the protectiveness in his voice when he'd called Finn ours, the pain in his expression when he'd spoken of the human queen he couldn't save. Or were you pretending at something you actually wanted? Lucian's breath caught, unnecessary for a creature who didn't need to breathe, which made it all the more telling. I'm a vampire king, he said quietly. I've lived 3 centuries. Fought wars, destroyed enemies, watched everyone I've ever cared about turn to dust. You're human. Your son is human, even if he carries the old blood. You have maybe 50 years left if you're lucky. I would watch you age. Watch you die. Watch Finn. Then turn us. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Alara.
Not now.
Not today. She reached out, taking his cold hand in her marked palm. The clan symbol pulsed between them. But someday, when Finn is old enough to choose, when I've lived enough of my human life to let it go without regrets, her voice softened. You said you made a mistake 3 centuries ago, that you chose your crown over a life you could have saved. Don't make that mistake again. You don't know what you're asking. To live as we do, to never see the sun without pain. I'm asking you to stop running. She squeezed his hand. From the guilt, from the loneliness, from the possibility that maybe, after 300 years, you deserve something more than war and shadows. Finn tugged at her dress.
Mama?
Are we staying with Lucian? Alara looked down at her son, her brave, marked, impossible son who'd stabbed a vampire lord to protect her. Would you like that? Finn considered, with the seriousness only 7-year-olds could manage. He fights really good. And he doesn't lie about being scary. He looked up at Lucian. Will you teach me to use a sword? Something cracked in Lucian's expression, the careful control he'd maintained for centuries. A laugh escaped him, rusty from disuse, almost human in its warmth. Yes, he said finally. Yes, I'll teach you. He pulled back from the dawn light, and they followed him into the fortress shadows. Outside, the sun climbed higher, turning the destroyed gates golden. Vampire ash drifted on the morning breeze. But inside, in the darkness that had been Lucian's kingdom for so long, Alara felt something shift. The blood oath mark on her palm warmed, and through it, she felt what he felt, tentative, fragile, but real.
Hope.
So, Lucian said, closing the inner doors against the sunlight, if we're doing this, truly doing this, we'll need a better fortress. Somewhere with proper defenses, and a garden where Finn can play. And a kitchen, Alara added. I still need to eat. And training rooms. 4 sword lessons, Finn grinned, the first real smile she'd seen from him since the wedding. Lucian looked at them both, this human woman who'd fought vampires to protect her son, and the boy who carried the power to change their world. His expression softened into something almost peaceful. Welcome home, he whispered, to House Varen. And for the first time in 3 centuries, the vampire king didn't stand alone.